This is the video that introduced me to Mind's tuning, and it's forever stuck with me till today for one particular reason. This sound. But more on this video later. Mind's tuning was established in 1981 by Nikura, initially becoming popular for ECU tuning, but then expanding into much more. But you've probably heard of them from the famous Paul Walker video where he rides with Tarzan.
Feel the power band the whole way, just...
Or maybe you've heard of them from their cars being in the Forza and Gran Turismo video games. Although mostly known for their work on Skylines, it's interesting to note that they've actually experimented with the Fairlady, Evo, and even the STI platforms. But of course their bread and butter being the GTR, beginning with the R32 and all the way up to the current R35. Their tuning style and philosophy is to keep it simple. Many of their earlier builds actually only had stock engines with only bolt-on upgrades. Once reaching the R34 platform is when they decided to begin doing more in-depth work like the engine, all while remaining within the same philosophy because they didn't want to lose sight as a company. That's super Japanese. Here's a clip of Keiichi Tsuchiya amazed at how stock the car looks under the hood.
マインズさんの特徴としてもエンジンが至ってノーマルっぽいですね、こういう。
こういうのね。こういうの買えないの？
こういう仕事っていうのはどんどんレギュレーションがないんで、どんどん白熱してくるわけですよね。ただしあんまりお客さんとかけ離れちゃうと。
I was surprised to learn that Minds only develops parts where and when needed, and what I mean by that is that a lot of their builds will use factory stock parts like the oil pump. But not only do they use factory parts where they can, but they also use and sell other aftermarket parts. For example, the turbos that they use are HKS 2530s, which are a well-known direct bolt-on upgrade to the factory units. So really I see them like composers when it comes to building cars, picking their favorite off-the-shelf parts and mixing it with their own. They're kind of like the McLaren F1 team, which has a chassis of their own but uses other manufacturers' engines. The end product is a complete package of balance and response, and it really can't be overstated of how effective it really is. To demonstrate the effectivity of the Minds R34, it did a 121.22 at Willow Springs back in 2006. The only production car to beat that time was the Porsche GT2RS in 2018, 12 some years later. The Porsche did it in a 121.08 by Randy Post. And if you've ever watched a Motor Trend video, you know Randy. He's an experienced racing driver who knows Willow Springs like the back of his hand.
Stick it!
And of course I know that there's purpose-built track cars and time attack cars that go quicker, but what I'm trying to demonstrate is that this is a street legal car that's tuned with old technology by a company whose mission statement is to keep it simple. And what's stunning about that is that it took 12 years and technology for production cars to catch up, and a company like Porsche who's an industry leader in racing technologies. Especially with a platform like a GT2 RS, which is the most track-focused car that Porsche makes that even outpaces their 918 hypercar. And yes, you can make the argument that the Porsche is a stock car and I'm comparing it to the R34, which is a fully modified car. But if we run through the comparisons, the Porsche actually outclasses the R34 in so many ways, which makes the Minds that much more amazing that it's able to do what it does with what it has. So let's run through some quick comparisons between the Porsche and the Minds. The Porsche has their PDK double clutch transmission, which shifts in about 50 or 60 milliseconds. That helps keep the turbos in boost. Whereas the Minds has the stock GTR 6-speed manual transmission. Now imagine how much more demanding it is to drive the 6-speed manual like really fast, having to heel toe, rev match, and constantly make sure that you're in the right gear versus a double clutch, which it's so quick and effortless almost. The GT2RS has variable valve timing and valve lift, which helps with engine response and controlling the power band, which is of course helpful in turbocharged applications like the GT2RS. The R34 has no valve timing at all. The Porsche has 400mm carbon ceramic brakes versus the 355mm alloy steel brakes on the R34. The Porsche has 700 horsepower versus the Minds R34 having only 600 horsepower. I think you get my point where I'm going with this, and the difference is just a mere tenth of a second. Now remember, we're talking about Porsche, who has some of the world's best engineers, versus Minds, a relatively small tuning company in the suburbs of Japan. And in no way am I trying to trash Porsche, because their contributions to motorsport and car culture is a whole series on its own. But we need to realize how quick that GTR is. And a lot of people in the car scene will give older cars like the R34 flack for being old and having old tech and being overrated. But what I've just shown is that it's just as effective as the newest and greatest. And tuning shops like mine, who've dedicated a lot of time and development to the platform, do it for no recognition at all. The Mine's R34 is like a secret among enthusiasts. If you know, you know. To me, this is the essence of what a GTR is, having deep roots in motorsports. It's a car built for the track, but something you can still use on the streets. And personally, this is what I would model my dream build after, and it's what I hope to do with my R32, or God willingly, an R34. Alright, I've done a lot of talking, but now I present to you the clip of how I came to know about Mines. And I kid you not, I've watched it countless times. It's a video I come back to regularly, and every time I'm stunned at how seriously fast and responsive this car is, and how that's communicated through the video. It's something that blew my mind, and the sounds this car makes, oh my god. I tell you, man, it had my hair standing on end, just tingling the whole time. Alright, so without further ado, I present to you Mines Tuning.
Now, Tsuchiya following to have his turn in the cockpit.
マジかよおい。早すぎ。早すぎ。速い。すげえ速い。フロント浮いてるよこれ。これは究極だよ。すげえな、しかしもうすげえしか言えない。一回死んだじいさんが目覚ますねこれ。
本当そうですよね。モーターのようですよね、エンジンがね。シフトアップしてまた踏み込んだ時の後ろから押し出される感じっていうのがすごいし。
GT500 より加速あるよ。
ありますね。ありますよね。マジで。そういったレベルですよ。
ぶったまげるな。気持ちいいっていうよりかね、怖さ 120%、って感じ。
早すぎですね。
やっぱりそのトータルでそのピックアップを良くしていくことがどういうことかっていうのが